to the program, Dr. Donny Epstein. And I have to tell you, folks, if you're watching this at home, please do the world a favor and post on your social platforms on Facebook. Let them know that Donny Epstein is speaking live now on IFCO television. There's so many people that would be interested in watching this interview, and they're going to learn a lot. I have to tell you, he's going to go deep. He's going to say some things that maybe 2 or 3 hours from now you'll finally get. I know that's what happens to me. But this is a man who's certainly transforming and evolving the world as we know it with his technologies and strategies of human development and potential. And so it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you, Donny Epstein, to the program.
Great to be here, Liam.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Donny, could you tell us a little bit about how is it that you got into chiropractic?
Interesting. I was actually in Brooklyn College in Brooklyn, New York. And there was a program that I was going to apply for in my third year of college. It was at NYU, New York University. It was a master's PhD program in physiotherapy, because I had this experience at that time that the whole body learns, and it's not just one part, and that body produces proteins for every experience you ever experience, so it's hooked into a potential field. I wrote a paper about that in physiology in college, and they said I got a C because it was teleological, and I said, what's that? They said, you started with this concept that the body has some intelligence, and I'm sorry, even though the paper would be really well in physiology, we can't accept that. And I said, this is kind of crazy. So I wanted to go into actual physiotherapy because I wanted to do rehabilitation with people and come up with these new models of how the nerve system reorganized. And I was just happened to going with my money order at that time, an application to the mailbox, and my father, who just took off from work that day, and he almost never took off, was walking by me and said, Donny, don't mail it. And he just saw me and said, why? He said, you're going to be a chiropractor, not a therapist. So I put it back in my pocket, and we talked. He said, I just saw your cousin. His name was, he said, he was Dr. Arthur Pine. He said, all the years I knew him as Archie Pincus, but now he's poo-poo, a doctor. I said, what type of doctor? You're a chiropractor. And his son Alan, and they're on the admissions board of Columbia Institute of Chiropractic, and they're moving to a new campus, and they need more students. He said, so if you have a passion, you could apply. I said, well, what's chiropractic? He said, well, I went to, years ago, my back hurt, and I had some digestive problems to help me. I'm not sure. He's telling me a whole different thing than I heard about. So I called him up. He told me the story about what chiropractic was about. I applied to the school. I got accepted. I went to clinic. I got adjusted. All of that particular point in time rocked my world, and I never became a physiotherapist.
Awesome. We're on the show with Dr. Donny Epstein, Liam Schubel, and I am Frank Hahn. If you guys can just share this on the social platforms, the link is www.ifcochiro.org/live, and make sure you're sharing this with us so folks that are just cruising around the Facebook or the social platforms know we're there. Don, would you mind sharing us a little bit more what network chiropractic is?
Well, my first system I developed in 1984, I first published, was Network Chiropractic Spinal Analysis, that time, which we called Network Chiropractic.
Okay.
And that was originally based upon classification of two types of subluxation: spinal cord tension, like multiple cord tensions that BJ spoke about, and segmental nerve pressure. And the whole idea started off with taking care of people to optimize their potential. And I first started out, hey, let's first get the spinal cord to move in its natural position, to oscillate, so consciously express itself, and then go for segments. And during that, it set me on a journey of finding a whole variety of patterns where people responded, retraced physically, emotionally, chemically, and spiritually. And then we did research about 1994-95, University of California, Irvine Medical School, and I found out that the basic results people got in the self-perceived wellness was associated with their awareness. Awareness was going on, and awareness of the specific wave that happened in network care. B.J. Palmer talked about the nerve force carrier wave, and his obsession at the time was with all the waves from the wave of the heart, the organs, the spinal neuron typograph, all the waves. You put all these body waves together, you'd have a sum total of a nerve force carrier wave. And if anyone could express a nerve force carrier wave, a person educated will be expressed. I believe that's what we really established, a nerve force carrier wave. And so we started doing research to see what changes people had. You know, we talk about chiropractic today for a better world tomorrow. How do you know? You know, my gig was that it's big enough for what change we have to have in the world, and this time we have to be able to prove that we're walking the walk and talking the talk.
Were you one of the founders or the discoverer of network?
I am the discoverer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I am the discoverer, yeah.
Awesome.
So we discovered this, and we started doing research, and we were challenged in all different jurisdictions. Basically, just as chiropractic was moving more into insurance, and they were getting the low back marketplace, etc., articles in all the major publications, LA Times, Atlantic Constitution, many of them, LA Toronto Star, even Journal of Veterinary Medicine said animals did better, personalities did better, they responded better with the care. And what I was doing at the time, and that was an error at the time, I was telling practitioners that stay away from the medical paradigm and instead just do the chiropractic assessment. At that time, I would have realized I would have been much better off just teaching the best assessment and realize that you don't have to say don't do something else, just teach them to do something better and they'll move that way. Yeah. That created a lot of political pressure. So we did research to say what changes were happening. And this is important because the research was the largest health population study ever done of any chiropractic population, physical, emotional, mental, social changes, quality of life. And what I wanted to say is, if someone was innately guided, what would it be? Can you listen to your inner voice more effectively? Do you work better with the people? Are you more compassionate? Do you make healthier choices? Because healthier choices, ultimately, I said, will be the biggest thing in the healthcare domain. And it was great. The research showed extraordinary changes, and what I found out is I asked, what's the biggest predictor of change? And the biggest predictor they found was the longer a person was in care, the bigger change they had.
Yeah.
And the appearance of the wave and awareness of wave. This rocked my world. Actually, I talked to Reggie Gold about that, Tom Gelati, and it said, what I'm finding is the biggest change doesn't appear to be correction of subluxation per se. The biggest change is people's awareness of what's going on in their life. And the longer duration in care and awareness of this wave. If they had this wave going on, which we've researched, and weren't aware of it, their quality of life did not improve that much. So I realized that, oh my God, awareness is the biggest key. So I changed network chiropractic. I ended it in 94, 95. And started network spinal analysis, where at the center of was asking the person, what changes are you getting? Because somehow being aware of the change was a greater predictor of long-term quality of life. Now the crazy thing about this is, I thought that all the chiropractic colleges would be excited, all the state boards would be excited that we've had the largest population of health benefits that shows there's no ceiling to self-reported wellness in every domain, including life change, and that people make healthy life changes, they get healthy diet, exercise, without telling them to do it based upon care. And the result was state boards started attacking us, said, if you're doing research, it must be experimental. And I got a call from a couple of leaders in the chiropractic profession, who I thought were the chiropractic profession at the time, and said, because you made it your method, then it's not going to get, it means other methods are not good. I said, no, we're setting a new standard. It's about time to say, chiropractic today for a better world tomorrow. The chiropractors are able to assess, are they taking care of people effectively enough to make the change we want to see in the world? Because ultimately, social science change is the key thing. Ultimate physical, emotional, and social well-being, and are you checking for it, just giving lip service, and what methods make the biggest change? And I thought I was going to set a new standard that every method do this, but no, did anything with the research. Since then, we said, what are we going to do? And this is the key. We have reached out to 7 universities studying this wave that happens in network care, specifically network care. Mathematics and engineering, and they could demonstrate that basically this wave is producing, in layperson's terms, a change in the human operational system, the OS of the human nervous system, evolution of the nervous system, positive survival values we could see. This is not theory. When
Right.
do you have 7 universities saying we want to study the population of people in this system of chiropractic to study how the human nervous system evolves, creates coherency like never seen before, where this is it, the wave moves through, you create an adjustment in the sacrum. Instantly, there's a change in the signal coming at the upper and in the cervical spine. That means there's functioning as one unit, coherency. Up to now, the coherence they see in the human nervous system has been an inch big. They now see, going through the whole spinal system, new systems of assessing how well people are happening. So get this, in a quadriplegic patients we see the signal also. So we are able to see now is how does the human nervous system self-organize? And about this wave, this is the most important thing, is they say it's a central pattern generator. What does that mean? When you walk, your gait is unique for you. It's a fingerprint. It's a fingerprint for you. Why is that important? And what's important about that? Well, your nervous system learns and recalibrates, self-reorganizes, and learns consistent with a series of algorithms, consistent with your walking. If you break your leg, if you have a stroke, even though it doesn't look like you, the modern computer systems will still know it's you, because the gait is the first central pattern generator of the spine. A few years ago, they published papers that the wave in network, the mathematics of the spine, is a second known central pattern generator. So what happens? Why do I believe people say, I'm making more authentic choices? My spine spontaneously adjusts. I get spinal change no system ever seen, because it activates a self-organizing, self-healing, innate process that organizes. What I say is the sensory motor strategies of the spine are an educated response.
Right.
So what happens is when it starts suspending everything that's not authentic to get an innate to educated response, which is sensory motor strategies of the spine are that educated response. Guess what? A person's innately guided. And with this, I say, rather than trying to correct the subluxation, rather than trying to correct anything which is still the practice of medicine in my seeing, I want to promote those innate strategies, help system organize in its way, with its fingerprint, and with that, people will innate more guided life. And we need to now find out in assessments to how a person reorganizes when they live a reorganized life, what does it show up like? Right. And that's network spinal analysis and reorganizational healing.
Wow.
And you know,
Thank
I
you
gotta
so
tell you,
much.
that is one of the things that I find so fascinating, Donny. You know, when I first met you, it was in the early 90s. Dr. Billy Koletsky drug to one of your seminars in like an airport, Atlanta, you know, a hotel. And I gotta tell you, I was very skeptical. I was an upper cervical practitioner at the time.
So was I.
Right? And this is the thing. I remember this is you set up to do a toggle on somebody. And I have to tell you, it was like this. You want to see it? Okay, want to see it again? I mean, it was the fastest toggle I'd ever seen in my life. And at that point, because before that, we thought, you know, on the outside looking in, we thought, oh, he's doing that because he can't adjust. You know, that's what you hear from many techniques. And when I saw that toggle, I go, oh, this guy knows how to adjust. He's developing something that is moving us forward. And I love the idea, the congruency with the philosophy of chiropractic, that it's the minimal invasive force that you're putting in. And what's happening is you're actually causing that innate intelligence to make its move. You know, rather than you coming in and forcing a move through, you're having the body become aware of what's going on and then developing better strategies for
Perfect. And the thing is, if you took the promise of what chiropractic was, not the culture that it was expressed in with the technology of the time, and you look at the principles that really were established. DG said, molecular oscillation based on consciousness. If you alter or stretch the neuroskeleton, you alter the vibration and the consciousness. Well, research in network, and of course some other Danish research, says that the synapse is an acoustic wave phenomenon. It is a vibrational wave.
Right.
It is not an electrical phenomenon. We found the wave in network is an acoustic wave. What's special about acoustic wave? An acoustic wave travels at about 100 meters a second, about the same speed as nerve impulse. When you read the 31 steps of normal complete cycle, they are mostly oscillation and vibration.
That's right.
They're based upon the tone originally D.T. Palmer talked about. When you speak about what creates consciousness, what helps you learn and memorize. Frequency and trained oscillation in brain centers. You have a beta rhythm in the brain of the frequency entrainment helps you think. An alpha rhythm, relaxed. A theta rhythm, deep meditation. Delta rhythm is that of sleep. What happens now, they're finding with tensegrity. The body is established with tensegrity structures. What that basically means is that every structure is organized in a certain way that a minimal force in one place is transmitted to everything. It communicates the whole system. And a slight deviation in one part affects the other. That the whole system is springed at the point of instability. What instability means, it's able to be able to change instantly. The problem is, when a system gets ill, it goes to stability.
Right.
That's what subluxation does. It needs to be able to assemble a force to create itself. Now, what is this about? When you look at the current journal portals on how does the collagen of the fiber, how's the basic structure self-organize? And they basically say molecular oscillation that's entrained at a certain frequency communicates across inanimate objects to help them organize. Talk about universal intelligence.
Expressed through force and matter, right?
So the research we have at different universities are looking at how the thermodynamics of change occurs. What is thermodynamics in simple terms? The relationship of intelligence, matter, and force, energy.
I love it.
So what they're saying is, what doing is what illness is, all diseases is, the body cannot assemble enough force, energy to apply to the matter, to organize it with the basic vibration within every atom, which is established what's called acoustic waves. The same principle. Now, why did B.J. Palmer in the 1920s say, forget about segmental stuff. Look at all the osteopathic labs. Look at all the spinal distortions. Forget about going individual vertebra. It's not what it's about. You want to help the whole system. The major thing is a major spinal cord tension patterns. And we want to put an oscillatory force into the system, which is what the upper cervical adjuster was, because oscillation is a language of innate, which is what D.D. Palmer originally said.
That's right.
And so to put it there, why at the upper cervical spine? Because that's where the bone freely moves and oscillation will be interpreted through the system. So within that, the Talgo recoil was the main force that could be used to set the oscillation. Now just so you know, I don't know if you saw it, Sherman, they have the instrument that actually measures with computer the oscillating force. They assessed it and they had to recalibrate it because my toggle was faster than 1/10,000th of a second. Not only that, when I learned like ASRP or ASRA or whatever it was, I was able to put two specific impulses in, one for the superiority, one for the anteriority, and I practiced and I got really good at it. And this is many years since I've been using the toggle so often. And they found that within that 1/10,000th a second, I was able to have two different wavelengths, one for the superior, one for the other. And when they told me I was able to get the exact 4 pounds of force, 8 pounds with the 1/10th of a second. Now I realized the oscillation called level 2, where two vertebrae oscillates and train, which produces basically innate meditative state of the spine, and it helps the system to develop new strategies. I said, well, I want to see if I can do 3. I practiced with, we got 3, I had Sherman's practice, got 3 oscillations, 1/10,000th second. I toggled someone like that. He flew up in the air, turned twice over, and lied back like that. The guy said, I want that. But the idea is I'm realizing that the impulse in the toggle recoil, if you really get the impulse to set the oscillatory force, speaks the language of the tissues of the way your intelligence does. Because oscillation, this is it. Get this. This is the thing here. Now, I started out with network chiropractic. I evolved with network spinal analysis. I moved into reorganizational healing, which says it's about time we stop fighting about what technique works to protect our self-identity.
Right.
Ultimately, please listen. This is a great advice for everyone in business. I take care of Anthony Robbins, personal friends. He teaches business programs. Stop selling your product or service. In today's world, it doesn't work. Stop selling your chiropractic. Stop telling technique. Sell the answer to the human condition that you have. Make the why so big people will sign up if you could walk the walk and talk the talk. Fall out of love with your technique. Fall out of love with chiropractic. Fall in love with your clients you take care of.
Nice.
Your technique must serve them. That's what I did. I'm seen as a technique guy, but that's not what I'm about. I want to say, how could I create the greatest trajectory as an agent of change for the individual? helping them harness the innate forces in a way that they can develop strategies that never existed before. Get this, not only did I want to be the best chiropractor, I don't care about best chiropractor now. I want to be second to no one, okay? So everyone come up, okay? I said, I want to produce on each person a human strategy of innate expression that I can demonstrate as existing. And the longer they're in care, the higher that order happens. That not only never exists for that person, but never existed for humanity before. That's my standard.
Wow.
Now you set a standard like that, I will tell you, innate moves through you. You get obsessed. I mean, you will become a wild man.
Absolutely.
Because very few people step up to that.
That's right.
And then I have the research to demonstrate. It's not about me. I am asking everyone here, fall out of love with your technique, fall in love with your philosophy, and make it about people, because philosophy and technique very often is an excuse for serving the person.
Right.
You know, there's a time you had to have the dogma of your technique and philosophy. That was a time in chiropractic greats where their personality had to sell. Now people want to know that you can produce the goods. The philosophy of chiropractic is real. We need to stretch into modern times and make sure our systems take people beyond where they went before. Beyond and beyond, beyond. And we can produce it, and we find a way to produce it. Any system, anything I taught, I'm willing to turn upside down when the research shows a better way.
And that's the thing. You are very committed to research. And ironically, there's a movement within our profession, this evidence-based movement. And I love evidence, and I know you're passionate about the evidence. And there's tons of evidence that supports what we do. Could you talk a little bit about one of the most fascinating studies I saw in relation to network was Dr. Laska Hospers, I believe, did a functional MRI study with the brain and something having to do with the focal points. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, we started doing that actually. We were sitting down with about 14 researchers. Now get this, I'm invited to speak at places and meet with people in teams, like dream teams of researchers in all different disciplines. Chiropractors never had that opportunity before. I was just recently asked one Ivy League school, could I help my ideas on reorganizational healing, how systems reorganize, and rather than saying, how do we restore them to a minimum state and maintain them there, which healthcare is about, how do we take, no matter what disease they have, find how the disease is the cure. Get this, the disease is innate adaptation, it's a cure. How do you help take that person from where they're at and help use the disease and the symptom as a learning process of how life reorganizes? I've been asked at Ivy League school, can we help bring that to there? I'm at other conferences talking about this. Now, I've Laska Hospers, she introduced me to the concept of that. And I must mention the late Ralph Boone. He told me that you must develop a culture of evidence in every discipline for the principles you have, because chiropractic will never be solved by chiropractic. It will never get to the world by chiropractic. It'll get, when chiropractors reach a bigger problem with chiropractic, chiropractors address a bigger concern of the human condition. And I say it's people expressing the unique, innate signature in life. Who am I? Why am I here? What am I made for? And I believe chiropractic produces that. In answering that, Dr. Laska Hospers was on the first board of our association, a researcher at Sherman, at Life at the time. And she said, let's take a look at people's brainwaves and see what happens. And that got involved with Dr. Ralph Boone, who put us on a research agenda. I personally invest over $1 million in academic research and basically tutoring. My highest grade in college in math and science was a C. Okay? I was an artist. And I did this tutoring to study it. And I would read and study and ask people, what does this mean? What does this mean? I went back to take the original principles and said, what does it mean in science? And took a look at this. So we went to put a functional MRI unit where it actually studied function. And they had to do some study because they got the unit and they studied disease. No one wanted to study function in medicine. That's outside of medicine. It's disease. So we said, let's put someone who is in network care into the area. Let me first work in them. And I had them do this with the ankle because, you know, it's a whole nother conversation what I believe about neuroorthopedic tests, okay? And that's a whole conversation. But the basic thing is most of the neuroorthopedic tests indicate that somewhere between the brain and the dural sleeve, the meninges are not effectively functioning, and there's just some detention. You get one or two things, either withdrawal response, which says stop doing this freaking test, you're hurting me, or pain response, and stop doing this test, you're hurting me. It doesn't mean what they mean. It means there's tension in the dural system, Look at the etiology section. It's Stephenson's 1927 and 46, and take a look at dural tension as the basis of what BJ talked about and Stephenson talked about. So, in any regard, what we looked at is this is the way one of the things we measure for is this a spinal cord tension, a flexion, extension, or lateral bending tension. So we had people go take a brain study of them, look at the flexion, extension of the body, of the ankles, also the wrist. Since we don't walk on the wrist, that motion doesn't stress the spinal cord as much, and it was like a control. We didn't know what we were going to see, but they wanted to see, can we study if there's a change in brain function or improvement with the care? If this case is at the University of California, Irvine Medical School, they said, then we'll do research on this. Great. So we put the person in the area and they did this. And what happened is the whole brain lit up. What does it mean? It means the whole brain needed oxygen, which means the complex skill, even occipital cortex, the frontal thing, the whole brain lit up, which means when it lights up, it means it's not efficient.
Right.
And light's not efficient. We put somebody back into the instrument after I took care of somebody. They had the wave, network wave. And this is early wave, and it's evolved so much. And I evolved the wave based upon the mathematics research, which is very few systems really change the system based upon what the research shows. And they found a 1,500 to 3,000% increase in cortical efficiency in 20 minutes. What happened then after that, after they did the ankle movement, only the part of the motor cortex opposite the leg movement lit up. I said they were like, wow. And we had people from 14 different disciplines looking at this to see what to do. Because I finally said, listen, I don't know why the results happen. I know they're extraordinary. And these different research, different disciplines said to me at University of California, Irvine, and some at USC and other places said, listen, what you do is scientific. What makes it scientific, if it's reproducible, consistent, and predictable, scientific. Yeah. We might not have the models to explain it. Science doesn't mean it meets your model.
That's right.
Science means it's consistent, and predictable. You have phenomenon. And the thing is, in research, we have very few real phenomenon to study. You have phenomenals, you want to study this. Wow. So I asked, in neurophysiology, what would make the media? They said, if you had a drug and it got a 5% change in the media, 1,500 to 3,000%. This was the challenge. We couldn't publish it. Why? We did not do it in advance human subject of approval, which is necessary to publish it. So, what happens? It's good enough to go in front of a chiropractic research article, and in Chris Kent's book on radiology for that. Well, what happened? University of California, Irvine, it used to be an osteopathic school. The head of research there, every year they got a research grant for spinal manipulation of something. It went to the head of neurophysiology there every year because he was the one who managed the grant money for whatever it is. Department of Engineering, Mathematics, departments of radiology, all different departments got together and they said, we want the grant. We want to study this network application on improvement of brain function. We got the grant.
Wow.
Wow.
Only problem is, it's for a pilot study, and it's a major coup. Mm-hmm. University said we will not put a chiropractor in the faculty in the medical school to do the study. Right. So that never happened.
Amazing.
Amazing. Isn't it?
So, this is what we're looking at. Chiropractors, I started out as upper cervical protection mostly. And the toggle is the most important thing to me. And I understood the principles of chiropractic. Still really understand them. Both, I believe, what was said and was implicit. And I've gone to say which of these principles really lives today. We have new assessments for taking care of assessing quadriplegic patients and people. New mathematics have been developed. New patents are looking at cardiac function based upon the mathematics here. They're doing nano-robot assessment to look at people based upon that. Research based upon the mathematics that we have areas. Several patents have been applied for. The mathematicians believe that studying the mathematics of the wave, since we have a unique identifier for each individual, may indeed lead us to be able to find out the mathematics of how the cell recognizes itself. People believe it's possible the mathematics of studying the wave on people in network care may lead to be able to help space travel, beam me up Scotty. So the principles of chiropractic are alive. Unfortunately, the practice of chiropractic has not advanced, I believe, effectively in the schools or in the profession in probably 50 years.
Wow.
There's a challenge here. Because the reality is this. If you have a principle that's true, and you don't put everything into it and you don't advance it, someone else will find a way to happen because the species requires it. So I have developed a discipline called reorganizational healing. I hope there's a place for every discipline in it. The Association for Healing Practice has chiropractors in it. So can a chiropractor be both? Yes. What does it mean? It means you take care of a person, that regardless of what the disease, regardless of what condition a person has, someone comes in because they say, starting today, I want to increase my life expression, physically, emotionally, socially. I want to look for outcomes for that. And if I want to come in and I want to have my life go to a higher order, I'd like to have this happen. We are talking to cardiologists who are looking for that, psychiatrists and do it, and whatever. The thing is, everyone is going to learn the methods or the concepts based upon chiropractic. And it says this, it's not about removing interference, because basically interference in the nervous system is what makes the system have to grow to create adaptations. I don't want to remove anything. I want to add something that never happened before.
Makes sense.
So what I'd like to see, and there's a group that goes to Congress called the Voice for Hope, and our association supported it. What the Voice at the association supported and the Research Foundation association supported it. What they say is every time in Congress there's a bill for a school or a road or anything, there's a health association or health consequence to that. So there's a health budget. The health budget currently is pharmaceuticals and drugs. They say anytime there's a bill in Congress that has a health budget, they should have a non-pharmacological and they should have a non-surgical part of the budget. They've met with hundreds of people in Congress. Due to our influence with this, they get articles on reorganizational healing now, and now they're saying, once we get that, every time you have a surgical and non-surgical approach, there should be a restorative and a reorganizational approach. So this is what we're saying, chiropractors. The future of chiropractic could say, yes, I practice chiropractic, and I choose to practice in a reorganizational way. Therefore, the intake for a patient, if you want to diagnose, treat, and restore them to a prior minimal state, is not what's essential for us. Because if you want to take them to a level they've never been at, you need a different intake, and you have to be able to check neurophysiologically and spinally, is the system organized in a higher level of complexity? Do they have an innate expression? And for that case, what they're asking other chiropractors is clinically substandard. So I'm suggesting that for every discipline, every patient, every client has the right to be taken care of, to find out what went wrong and produced the sickness. And you know what? If the whole thing you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And then you have to prove that you are the more effective person to restore them to a minimal state to barely alive. That's what they call health. And then you can have chiropractors leading the way, saying for no matter what discipline, whatever person says, I'm not concerned about treating my heart problem. I want to have the healthiest heart on the planet. I'm not concerned about treating my kidney problem. I want to have the healthiest kidney in the problem. If you want to have the healthiest heart, or the healthiest kidney, and the healthiest liver, your series of strategies is going to have to involve chiropractic care. Right. But not to even correct the subluxation, per se. To produce the greatest communication between brain and body. I've also looked reorganizational healing-wise, the innate intelligence, 6 different intelligences. Each one organizes the body in a different way. Each a different sensory motor strategy. Each shows a different level of coherency. And everyone needs that no matter what it is. So basically, we're saying is this. You have a choice in every moment to find cause or blame. And I will tell you, with blame comes shame. And as long as you're for blame, whether it be in the person's health or in your relationship with other chiropractors, you give up the right to change. Blame and change are opposite directions. Why do you want to blame it on the subluxation? Why? Because then you physically don't have to deal as a chiropractor with the person. The subluxation is part of a process where it says, I have to downsize this person's body in their life because there's not enough energy to bring to organizing wisdom to express who it is now and who they must be. So I suggest that perhaps you see yourself as a healing doctor, a doctor of, quote, a healer and an initiator. I suggest instead that we deputize us as agents of change. and that we use our chiropractic tools to help us upgrade our operational system. How do you get this across to people? Say, listen, have you upgraded your OS of your computer? Do you expect the needs of your human life now or the future to be handled by old OS? Well, it's simple. Force is the missing link. Energy is another area. We are energy deprived. We're energy deprived, and the energy we need to do can be liberated with the chiropractic adjustment. The question is, are you applying a force to the spine, and is it creating the change that's necessary for humanity? If not, move over and let somebody else do that.
Beautiful. Dr. Donny Epstein, founder, developer of Network Chiropractic, also Reorganizational Healing. Thank you so much for joining us on IFCO Television.
Thank you so much.
We had more questions to ask, but we're going to have to do a part 2 of this,
well,
that's all right
with you. The idea is life is not changed by the answers. Life is changed by a new question, and that requires new energy, and you got to get the spine taken care of.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for watching. All right, guys, thank you so much. All right, Donny, thank you. Pleasure. It was great. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.